Coach Tony here, head coach at OTF Noblesville in Indiana, and we are conquering the weight floor this week, and we are breaking down each one of those super important foundational movement patterns, and today we're going to take a look at the push. We're breaking down that push into two major variations, the horizontal and the vertical, and we're going to show you a couple of exercises that you typically see on that weight floor and how to get the most bang for your buck in each one of those exercises. We're going to break down that horizontal push to begin with, and one of my favorite exercises that we're going to start with is that push-up. But as we take a look at that horizontal push, as Coach Katie gets here and gets ready, as we take it down on the ground, that horizontal push so important in our daily life as we push the ground away or our body away from the ground, or we're pushing objects away from our body. So important that we're moving heavy objects around the house during our occupation, or we're playing around with those kids. It's important that we can get on and off the ground and move those objects in that horizontal pattern. All right, so let's take a look at that push-up. So important. Again, one of my favorite exercises. Before Katie even gets into that high plank position, let's set up for where those hands need to be. We're going to make sure that those hands are going to be right below the shoulders, and she's going to act as if her hands are like dials. She's going to grip the ground with her hands to begin with, and she's going to dial those hands outwards. Right? So think of those two big volume dials, and we're gonna turn them out. And what that's gonna do is externally rotate those shoulders, and it's gonna lock in and pack those shoulders. We want those nice and super tight. Now, she's going to extend one leg as she takes it out and then takes it over onto that other side. This is how you should set up into that push-up before you even get started. Now, she's going to tuck her tail to make sure that we're not seeing any extension in the lumbar spine. So we don't want to see any dipping or any looping in that spine right here. So we want to be super nice and tight here. That push-up has just as much to do with our core stability and our core strength than it does our upper body as well, okay? So from here, she's gonna lower that chest down under control, elbows are arrows and not T's, and then drive it back up. She's leaving those handprints every time as she continues to dial those hands out. Let's try one more. As we take it down, those elbows are arrows and not T's, and we're driving those hands to the ground, leaving those handprints to finish out every one of those reps. All right, so that's when we're taking a look at that horizontal push from the ground, pushing our body away from that ground there. Such an important thing as we get on and off the ground with our kids or in our occupation and those things that we do throughout our daily life. All right, now we're gonna flip it over on its head and take a look at that next horizontal push pattern, and we're gonna take it to that chest press. I know you've seen the chest press on the Orange Theory weight floor, so let's break it down, and again, making sure that you're getting the most bang for your buck every time you hit these reps. So first and foremost, Katie's gonna lay back and make sure that her back is nice and flat, so I shouldn't be able to really get my hand all the way underneath her back there in that bench, and she's gonna drive her heels down into the ground to making sure that we're locking in the entire system here, okay? Now, she's gonna start by driving those dumbbells up towards the ceiling, right? That's gonna lock in our lats. If you wanna be a strong pusher, you gotta be a strong puller. So we need to get those lats involved. And then from here, now she's gonna pull her elbows down to the ground. Once again, we're seeing that arrow position in the elbows, and then drive those shoulders to the bench to drive those dumbbells back up towards the sky. We'll do another rep here, bring it back down. Strong elbow position, and those dumbbells are gonna stop at our chest and drive it back up, okay? Making sure that we are finishing that entire rep as we drive those hands all the way up towards the ceiling, and we are always locking in the entire body to get the entire body involved. Even though we're working on the pec major and the minor and the delts and those triceps, go ahead and relax, Katie. It's a whole body exercise because we can use the entire body to make sure, because when we use that entire body, we're gonna be able to use heavier dumbbells, all right? And we're not just picking on one certain part of the body, even though that's gonna be our focal point, we can utilize the entire body to pick up some heavier dumbbells, all right? So those are two variations of that horizontal push. Now we're gonna come up to a standing position for our vertical push, right? So now that's our horizontal push in that sagittal plane here. Now we're gonna take it above our head, where we see things where we're picking those heavy objects up, we're putting them on a high shelf, we're picking up that baby boy or girl, and all those things that we do throughout our daily life, and again, in our occupation, we need to be able to pick up those heavy objects and take them above our head, all right? So functional in everything that we do. So we're gonna take a look at that shoulder press as our first vertical pattern, and we're gonna rack up those dumbbells at our shoulders. Once again, you're gonna see that elbow angle, just like we talked about in that horizontal push. It's going to allow the shoulder to move more naturally in that pattern if we have those that proper T, or not T, but that arrow angle instead of having that T position here, you should be able to see those dumbbells in your periffs, all right? If they're too far back, you're not gonna see those dumbbells. We wanna bring those elbows back into that arrow strong position. Now, first and foremost, if I want to punch Katie in the stomach, she'd be ready for it. So we wanna make sure we lock in that trunk, because once again, just like with that horizontal pattern, it's gonna help. It's gonna come from that core strength, not just our upper body. Then from here, Katie's gonna push the ground away with her feet as she drives those dumbbells up towards the ceiling, poking her head through the window to make sure we get those biceps right next to her ears. Now, we're only halfway done. Now she's gonna pull those dumbbells back down towards that start position. She's not gonna just let them drop, all right? Remember, there's that other half of this lift. We drive up, go ahead and drive them up, and then we pull them back down. You own those dumbbells. It's not the other way around. Don't let those dumbbells control that tempo. Should be a nice controlled tempo as you pull those babies back down to that start position, okay? Now, we're gonna set one dumbbell down. Everything we've been talking about up to this point has been in the sagittal plane. But in our daily life, we don't just move forward and back. We move in different angles, and we rotate and we twist, all right? So it's important that we can move that pattern and that load into that rotation in different planes of motion, all right? So we're gonna rack that dumbbell up just like we did for that shoulder press, have a nice strong angle in that elbow. And then what she's gonna do is she's gonna press that dumbbell up, and at the same time, press that downside foot and squeeze that glute and squash that bug with that foot down here. We want to see that nice, straight, strong line from that shoulder all the way down to that foot. And then once again, she's pulling that back down to that start position. One more as she drives it up, and then squeezing that glute all the way down. So we got that nice structured position all the way down. Think of that tree. The stronger the trunk, the stronger the branches, right? So we want to be able to, we're using that entire body to get that load above our head, and now we're adding that rotation. Those rotations and those twists that we see in our daily life all the time. Okay, so those are those two push patterns that we're taking a look. That push pattern that we're looking at in the horizontal side of things, as well as that vertical as we take that weight above our head. A couple of things to recap here, making sure that we're always hyper aware of how we're utilizing our trunk. We're tucking that tail, we got that strong tummy and bummy all the time, no matter what we're doing here. If it's the horizontal or vertical, we always start with that strong trunk. Secondly, making sure that those elbows are always in that strong, natural position, and we should see those arrows and not T's. That once again will allow that shoulder to move more naturally, and we're not putting that humerus in that fixed position. Because if we're sitting like this, that means when we go up, or if we're going out, we're going to see that humerus just get kind of grinded in there, and that could lead into an injury, especially when we're talking about that heavy load. All right, so strong core, right, and we got those nice natural, strong position of those arms and those elbows to make sure that we can lift that weight properly and we can take on that heavy load. Guys, it's so important that we think about quality over quantity. More is not always better. Better is always better.